everyone. Welcome to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for Parabolis. We are the preeminent partnership for government contractors, providing holistic support that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today, we welcome Dr. Kathryn Rudloff, Executive Director at weVENTURE Women's Business Center. Kathryn and I connected through a mutual friend. Shout out to Jennifer Kennedy of Kennedy Solutions Group. And I quickly saw Kathryn's passion for advocacy and her ability to create meaningful connections to create important and strategic results. For this, I knew I had to have her join us on this show. So welcome, Dr. Rudloff.
Thank you so much, Teresa, for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So we have a ton of steps to go through, but before we really engage in the meat and potatoes of it, if you will, I would love for you to be able to share a little bit about your own personal journey and what led you to your role here today. So I know that you've built your career around supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses in different ecosystems. What led you to your work and your role with weVENTURE?
Yeah, so I really do. I love helping people. I'm one of those kids who grew up feeling like, oh, there's something that needs to be done. Well, I could do that. I should be able to do that. So that actually led me into government and politics first. So my early career was in Washington, D.C., and really became passionate about understanding how policies impact the real world and vice versa, how the real world needs legislators and needs policies that understand how they're actually operating and what their needs are in the community. So I had the opportunity early in my career to work in Washington for various leadership offices, then got out on the campaign side, and then served as a district director for our local congressman here on the Space Coast of Florida. And then after that, I had the opportunity I was kind of ready to pivot out of Campaign Kathryn, and as my husband called me, and I got into small business advocacy. And it was the same idea, helping local small businesses better communicate and engage with their elected officials, both at the local, state, and up to the federal level. And then from there, the opportunity to join weVENTURE was just a perfect fit because I'm all about supporting women's economic empowerment and the work that I get to do both locally at the Women's Business Center and as a board member for the Association of Women's Business Centers, helping influence and advocate for technical assistance, training, mentorship, access to capital, improving outcomes for female entrepreneurs at all levels and all across our country is something that really gets me out of bed in the morning. I'm very passionate about.
I love that. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because when I met you, I could really tell. And I love learning about your journey because what you did in your former life in DC really complements the work that you're able to do today, especially on the advocacy portion of it, because you got to see on the internal government side how things work. And now you can help apply that knowledge to supporting the small business community within the women-owned small business ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful that you have that complementary background that you can share both sides of things to really help people see how important their journey themselves is towards impacting policy. And, this program and at Parabolis are very supportive of different organizations that support the WBCs community. So I think it's really interesting to show how you all collectively are unified in the overall advancement of women-owned businesses, but have different niches of where you are most effective. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, for those that aren't familiar, walk us through what weVENTURE is and the role it plays within the broader network of women's business centers.
Sure. Well, the U.S. Small Business Administration funds several different programs, and Commerce does as well. So most people will be familiar with Small Business Development Centers, the Service Corps of Retired Executives, or SCORE. That's an all-volunteer, business support. We have veteran business outreach centers and minority business development centers. Women's business centers are actually the youngest out of all of those programs. And they came into being that in the late 1980s, Congress was seeing that, women were entering the workforce, but they weren't seeing the same commensurate rise in women-owned businesses. And when they did commissioned a study as they tend to do, the reports found two major hurdles. And the first was that women still required to have a male relative as a cosigner for a business loan. So getting access to the capital they needed to start a business was still a huge hurdle in the late 1980s. And then the second one was that women didn't feel like they were ready, that they had access to the mentorship or the education training they needed to launch into owning their own business. And that's typical. We see that in study after study. Guys might jump in and say, sure, I can do that. And women want to feel like they're qualified, that they know, they're a little, I like to be prepared in advance mentality. So by starting the Women's Business Center grant program, our mission and over 150 WBCs around the country now is to do just that. We provide free business coaching, low and no cost business education, training, mentorship programs. At Florida Tech, we actually received the grant in 2007. So weVENTURE Women's Business Center is a program of the Florida Tech College of Business, and we're getting ready next year to celebrate our 20th anniversary.
Wow.
The
That's
other
exciting.
difference, yeah, we're very excited. It's any organization, any business, you make it 10, 15, 20 years, that says a lot. But one of the strengths of the WBC program, as opposed to those other federal programs, is we really are designed as local public-private partnerships. The other grants, the SBDC, that grant money flows to the state, and then the state helps fund through the college system. SCORE is all volunteer, and it's kind of run out of Washington, and then they have chapters of volunteers locally. Our program, we are actually required to match the federal grant with local investment from the community. And so that's what's allowed our program. The federal grant is actually a small part of our funding now, and the community has embraced the idea that the small business technical assistance and mentorship is necessary to help our booming Space Coast and help all of these innovative companies launch and grow. So we're really proud of that. It's one of the things that I think both is a nod to our longevity, and that to even all the drama we've seen in Washington over the last year and a half, bipartisan support from both the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, for the work that WBCs do. And in this most recent, the funding bill that was just passed in the winter, it was the first time ever that WBCs had their own line item. They really were sending the signal back to the administration that, no, this is a program that's working, that we want to continue to invest in.
And that's exciting. And as you made reference to, the Space Coast is a booming economical force to be reckoned with in the state, and lots of great innovative things happening over there. And so it's wonderful that there is that partnership from the public and the private sector that are supporting the efforts to bring in new innovative technologies from businesses all over the Space Coast area, and that you guys really are a unifier of the both. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for businesses in that area to be able to engage. I know that you've talked a little bit about what types of support entrepreneurs can expect from the coaching and training and even mentorship programs. But in our preparation for this call, we talked about your program called Ignite 360. I'd love you to be able to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's sort of unique to Florida Tech. It was developed here and trademarked here because our coaches and leadership team in 2012, prior to my joining, had the foresight to say that, more established businesses and growth-oriented businesses, they need more than just one-off coaching and support. And so the Ignite 360 whole suite of services that we offer are designed to be more wraparound. You're not just paired up with one person. This is a team of mentors. You're going to have the legal, the HR, the operations, the marketing, and we're going to want to work with you for 3 to 6. We even have some programs that go 9 months long. And it's all very still personalized. Our staff works first with the client to understand the business challenges or opportunities they're facing and set some specific goals that the executive is struggling with. Okay, this is what we need to hurdle to unlock the growth or to be able to start onboarding more employees faster. And then we provide them with a custom mentor team pulling from a network of 75, 80 subject matter experts. And we certainly love our retired professionals here in Florida, but we have a lot who are still active, bankers, lawyers, and they will work with our clients to help them meet those very specific goals. We want entrepreneurs to generate wealth, achieve financial stability, create jobs. We allow them to determine what that outcome and that goal looks like, and then we build the team of mentors to help them get there. A key component, yeah, I'm sure you see this and hear this everywhere, but the ability to have a safe place to talk about what's not going well and to admit what you don't know and to get support to help you, either upskill or address and fix that is so important. Entrepreneurs feel like they have to sell and convince everybody they know what they're doing, but the reality is they need that help and support. So thanks to investment, from some folks who just believe in investing, whether in scholarships or investing in our program, we're basically a very affordable consulting firm where small and growing businesses can get support that they need without feeling like they're breaking their bank or stretching their finances beyond what they can, but beyond what's responsible for them.
That's wonderful, because that's a lot of where you see the gap in the businesses that start and those that get beyond the 5-year mark, is
Mhm.
their ability to really understand that peer mentorship and also mentorship of those who are within the sectors of their business operations that they're not an expert in. Because
Mhm.
a previous guest of ours on this show was talking about how CEO is the chief everything officer.
Everything officer. Yeah.
hmm And I think
And
so many feel that way.
yeah, one of our goals is really to help entrepreneurs feel like they can get to the point where they are able to step out. They've got the
hmm
processes and the procedures and the structure in place. And I kind of tell folks, like, you don't have a business unless you get to that point. You've created a job for yourself, but to
hmm
create a business, you've got to have that structure in place where it can be that the owner should back off. And we have a great example in Alluvionic that's
hmm
gone through our program, government contracting, project management, and working with Wendy Romeo and their founder at several different steps. And then she sent her team members to come back through our leadership programs. When she faced a personal challenge that forced her and her husband to be out and away from the business, the team was right there. It kept going, right? Like they
Yeah,
were able to say, Wendy, we got it. Well, Alluvionic's going to be fine. Please take care of yourself. And that should be the goal of every entrepreneur, right? That it's not dependent
absolutely.
on you, that you build that structure and that system and have a team around you that you can trust.
That's the scalability and
Mhm.
successful scalability of a company, right? Because of course, the entrepreneur in some circumstances starts out as a solopreneur, right? And so
Mhm.
they are the chief everything officer. But
Everything.
in order to really leverage the capabilities of the company themselves, the business owner need not be the single point of failure for the company by
Mhm.
trying to do everything and not bringing in teams that can, with the guidance of the CEO, put processes and procedures in place so that things run smoothly, whether you're able to be there or not. So that's a perfect example of a success story right there. And a lot of the tools that your programs have shared with businesses have led to their ability to have life happen and not have their
Mhm.
business fall apart in the process. So I think that's a wonderful testimony to the services. And I'd like to dig into that a little bit as well with, how are you seeing small businesses successfully leverage outside of just that instance, the resources that you provide for growth and scalability, particularly in the competitive market that is government contracting? Because Space Coast, while there is a lot of private business going on, there's a lot of intertwining of the public sector into it as well. So I'd love
So
some insight
much.
on
Yeah.
that.
I think it comes down to confidence building of the
hmm
CEO.
Yeah.
And we design our programs in mind with, because we're outcome driven, it's always very focused on what the unique needs of that business, that entrepreneur are, and what their specific financial goals are.
hmm
But I would say 90% of the coaching, the mentoring, the teaching that we do are done with that evidence to give them the confidence to dream bigger.
hmm
Because you have two types of entrepreneurs. You have the entrepreneurs that see the opportunity, they have, for whatever reason, so much, they dive in, right? And then eventually they will either get to burnout or just max capacity, like they will be as stretched as they can go. And then you have the other entrepreneurs that kind of suddenly find themselves with success, that it wasn't their intention for the client to come, for the big contract opportunity, for the partnership, whatever it might be. And then they find themselves, I never intended for it to grow this fast, or I didn't feel ready yet for it to grow this fast. So in both of those cases, it is upskilling the CEO so they can dream bigger and that we
hmm
can put the organization structure in place
hmm
that they can confidently, we say confidence in sustainable growth,
hmm
because I want entrepreneurship to be a financial benefit and we don't want people to burn out and risk their health or their financial well-being in the pursuit of a dream
Right.
that they didn't have the structure in place to achieve.
I think that's a wonderful point, because it does happen, because it's hard for it not to affect you personally and even your health when
Yeah.
you're churning and burning on a daily basis. And so I think that's a wonderful point that you've made. So we mentioned the success story with companies like Alluvionic and even Kennedy Solutions Group, who I know had a
Mhm.
fantastic stint in working with you all as well. But we talked in our preparation about also 8Koi, which I'm familiar
Mhm.
with. Being a Florida native myself, these are all businesses that are thriving and have gone through your programs.
Mhm.
What do those businesses have in common that others can learn from that is not just necessarily working with you guys, but any insight into
Yeah.
the commonality that led to their success as well?
It's such a great question. And I think the key entrepreneurial mindset is a growth mindset and leaders who are willing to acknowledge what they don't know yet,
Mhm.
that they're willing to admit they might have gaps in knowledge or skills or blind spots, and they value the opportunity to seek feedback, seek support, expand their skill set. That is makes all the difference for an entrepreneur. When folks come in and it's hard to receive feedback because they know everything already,
Yeah.
we call that's a coachability challenge. And we prefer when folks come in and that coachable side to respond positively to feedback, that invite the opportunity to personally stretch,
Mhm.
to grow or change, build their vision or dream. And sometimes I joke, we have a biased client data set in some way because people who don't have that growth mindset, who aren't coachable,
Yeah.
they either don't reach out for help in the first place
Right.
or they opt back and they might not come back after a coaching session or two because they don't like being challenged to
Mhm.
rethink about their strategy and their plans. So it's
Right.
hard for us to track the companies like that who drop off, but
Mhm.
data consistently shows we know 25 to 30% of companies will fail in the first 2 years, and it
Mhm.
jumps to 50% in the first 5 years.
Yep.
So we like to think there was one international study several years ago that found that 70% of mentored businesses survive 5 years or more. So it's
Wow.
all about helping beat the odds. If you really the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, let's go together. And we're a resource here to support you.
I love that. That is a perfect analogy of the support services that are available. We have a lot of up and coming, newer government contracting business owners. So they're early in their journey and they're listening right now. How can they begin positioning themselves to take advantage of contracting opportunities and possibly utilizing the skills that they learn with you all for that purpose?
One of the best and most wonderful things about government contracting, and I would even say the diversification that's happened in terms of both, gender and ethnicity and just number of businesses over the years,
Hmm.
there is a mentality of support. You can still keep your caution up, right? There are still some folks that, you have to be a little bit guarded around. But we find that those who succeed in government contracting are those who know that they've built a network locally and at conferences elsewhere, the folks that they've met who, when an opportunity comes, they can say, if I don't fully meet this, let's partner. What can we do together? And that they're leveraging their network. So, one of the things when we have a business that says they're interested in government contracting, we encourage them to be a good partner, to seek out partners and to help make referrals. Hey, if you see an opportunity that's not right for you, but you've met somebody you think would be good for, share that with them, build that
Hmm.
good karma in the world because it could be competitive
Hmm.
or it could be something you leverage so that you're more competitive, rather than a frenemy. Let's view it just as like we can go farther together. So early in the
Absolutely.
journey, it's hard to get people to have that mindset. They want to be cautious and guarded. But sometimes I think that networking just pays off down the road in ways you can't imagine at first.
Absolutely. I mean, the government contracting community is evergreen, right? And while it's
Hmm.
a ginormous community, right? We're talking, many businesses participating within this every year. A lot of people are a little bit more reserved because they think that everyone is competition, which
Hmm.
in certain areas it may be, right? If you're living in an area where there's a specific focus and everyone around you is working for the same contract awards, obviously that type of
Hmm.
competitive atmosphere exists. But I was listening to a panel discussion yesterday at an event for women-owned businesses, and they were one said in particular, and it's not a new term, but she said that she refers to it as competimates, because while
Impediments.
there is a competition in some award processes, right? They might be going after the same. Getting to know someone in a networking environment would allow them to see where their specializations can be merged, and that where
Mhm.
one side might be done better by one business, the other side could be complemented by the other. And so really being able to find within your competitive market areas where you can join forces together to go out for after something that might be even bigger than you would be able to pull off on your own just by someone that you met and really understanding what their business presents. And so I thought that was a great way to look at things. And to your point, the networking side of it and being open to learning and not just being closed off that I'm the only one that can do this and I don't want to talk to anyone else because they might
Yeah.
try to steal my opportunities. There's still a lot of that as well,
Yeah.
right? But business owners tend to learn a lot from their peers, whether
Yeah.
they do exactly the same things or they do something that's a little different, but maybe in the same market. I think it's so important that people lean into learning from peers that might even be a little further ahead in the journey that can share things that worked and things that didn't. Because obviously, it's a lot easier on the heart pain to learn from someone else's mistakes instead of making them a second time in
Oh,
your own life.
absolutely.
So,
And one of the fallacies that so many entrepreneurs have is that they're the first person to struggle
right.
with some business challenge and, would gently just say you are not, whatever whether it's hiring, organization, structure, cost management, you name it. You are
Mhm.
not the first person to face this challenge. So there is so much wisdom to be gained and a little bit of stress that can be taken off your plate when you say, you know what, I do have. And if you are experiencing that, being the mentor that don't
Yeah.
make other people learn the hard way, share it,
Right.
like offer the advice, say, hey, make sure you're thinking about this when you get started. I wish somebody told me. Again, I believe in goodwill. I believe in
Yeah.
the opportunity that there's enough of the big pie. Let's all, you
Mhm.
know, get some forks and dig in as opposed to, I'm going to
Right.
try to get a plate and just take what I can away.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And with that being said, you've talked a little bit about some of your initiatives. You've got some newer ones that are coming out
Mhm.
now that we'd love to highlight for you, including a veteran focused programming and the
Yeah.
Verizon Small Business Digital Readiness Platform. What opportunities should business owners be aware of right now with regard
Yeah.
to those?
So I don't think it's any secret that this current administration is very supportive and wants to see more support for veteran owned businesses, right? That's a key, pillar and initiative that they are putting out there. And the private sector is responding as well. So while we do love to support in the area that we're in has a very high veteran population. So we work with, I would say, a high number of veterans or military spouse owned businesses. The opportunity with Verizon that we have, this is our second year partnering, and Verizon, as this national, one of the larger companies in the United States, has invested in an online learning platform so that it's totally at when you have time, when you can't sleep in the middle of the night and you want to wake up and you're thinking about your business. Great. They probably have a course, whether it's marketing, financial management, team management. This isn't just how to restart your router stuff, that we wish Verizon could, I hope they have that on there as well, but this is like real business management. And then what they do is they invest in programs like ours that provide the in-person coaching because they know that entrepreneurs still need to ask questions. They still
Right.
need to have the person that they can go to and talk through issues. So it's a great synergistic complement. And this year, their focus is on increasing support for veteran owned businesses. So we are trying to partner with local organizations, networking groups. Obviously, we're always in and supportive of folks who are transitioning from Patrick, and coming out, but we're really pushing that proactivity because Verizon is offering 10 $10,000 grants a month that they are giving away to small businesses. And then with the funding that they will be providing to WeVenture WBC, if we can get more small businesses learning and using the platform, if we hit our goal, they give us a grant that will help fund one of our grants that we give locally to a business in Brevard County or the Treasure Coast to a veteran owned or spouse owned business. So it really is a win win. And if you're folks that listen, again, I can't emphasize this enough. If you can't sleep, visit our website at weventure.fit.edu, go on the Verizon small business page, and they will have something to keep you going and motivated and say, okay, this is two things I can do tomorrow, to tick off that'll make me feel like I'm more confidently managing the business. And then the other partnership, the AWBC has a great partnership with TikTok for an accelerator for product-based businesses that want to learn
Sure.
how to sell on TikTok. And
Mm-hmm.
we have and this is exclusively for veteran-owned businesses. And we have graduated the last 2 years, everything from hot sauces to beautiful clothing and attire to custom made cheese boards. But they get on TikTok and it takes off like that. And all of a sudden, they're opening up markets and connecting you with customers you never could have dreamed of. So, those are two really opportunities that we're promoting. And I appreciate the opportunity to share with your community because funding is out there and
Mm-hmm.
support is out there. You just got to know where to look.
And those are two hugely important things for businesses that are growing and looking for resources to really not just the first step, but long term,
Mhm.
being able to leverage resources that are going to help them get continuously to that next level. And so that's so important. I really appreciate that because I had no idea before talking with you that any of these programs were available. And I'm really looking forward to being able to support you in any way that I can and having you be able to engage our audience periodically throughout the year as well, so that we can share more initiatives as they come out and the success stories that come out of it as well, because I think
Yeah.
that's really important. It's one thing to know that something exists, but it's another thing to hear from the people who it's impacted and that had success that it does exist. And I went through it, and this was my transition out
The
and
outcome.
into, real world application of all of those things. So that's fantastic. Before we let you go, I'd love to have you share and the information that you've provided on the resources that you're offering in the programs. We'll definitely make sure when everything's published out that we're sharing that information as well. But if someone's listening and they want to connect with weVENTURE or explore the programs further, what's the best way for them to get involved?
The best way, the easiest way at weventure.fit.edu, right there on the homepage. I mean, obviously, you can explore and read more about the programs and services we offer, but right there on the homepage, we have a new client registration button. You fill in that information, and one of our coaches will reach out to you to set up that initial free consultation. Our free business coaching is always available. We like to grow with clients, so we might meet several times at first, and then it might switch to quarterly or annually as you're growing in. And the other programs that we offer, you kind of phase into and out of as you need that more wraparound support to join a cohort class or have a mentor team guide you through a challenge. And then the other opportunity to engage with us, we do a lot in person in and around the space in Treasure Coast. So we have a big fundraiser coming up August 22nd, our Wine, Women, and Choose, that will be hosted at Audi Melbourne.
Mhm.
Everyone's invited to come to that. Welcome them. And then every year we host a half day leadership summit. So the Impact Business Leadership Summit will be on October 1st. And we have secured Brigadier General Zappi as one of our keynote
Wow.
speakers. And we're very excited to have her come and join. She's retired. I should always say that, retired. But this is a woman who her entire career has been dedicated to leadership and building up those who are coming around her. And she didn't hesitate when we reached out to say yes and come join us so she could help inspire some of our clients. I would love to have you and your listeners join us.
Absolutely. And so I will connect with you offline to get the information on that so we can share it out on
That
our
would be
socials
great.
as well so that people are aware of it and that they will have the opportunity to participate in August and October when those things come
Yeah.
around. This has been a fabulous conversation. I'm so glad. I'm so grateful to Jennifer Kennedy for connecting us because I really feel that the information coming out of weVENTURE is super important, not only to the local area, but across the country for people to understand that there are opportunities to engage and find resources for success. And I really appreciate your time and all of your information today.
Thank you. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to share this. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely have you back on. And we wish you the very best in the coming months and the year ahead.
Thank you. All right.
Of
Thank you so
course.
much. Bye
And
bye.
thank you all for joining us. As always, we pride ourselves on sharing the most insightful and exciting people and information to help you better navigate your GovCon journey. If you like what you heard today, you can see all of our past podcasts, which are archived on our Parabolas YouTube channel. Stay tuned for all of our future guests as we help you grow to great heights in the year ahead. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day, my friends.